Okay, folks, and we can see today's topic is how to create a single source of truth. I got a typo in that already. So a single source of truth and continuous improvement. And so let's kick this off. Here's the agenda for today. Basically, I will do an introduction of myself, my background, a little bit about KPI Fire, an overview. And then we'll go into how KPI Fire helps us communicate strategies and priorities. We can cascade goals and metrics with the tool. Then moving on to engaging employees, and submitting ideas and soliciting ideas, getting prioritized ideas in the system. And then managing those projects, right? Creating a project from different ways. We can do it from a goal, from a metric, or create an idea. We'll look at a little bit about managing projects and recording the benefit of those projects. We'll talk a little bit about toxic numbers and how we can avoid those. And then finally, we'll finish off with huddle boards to review performance and to understand where we are, how we're doing, and help us focus the effort. And then at the end, we'll do some Q&A. There is a question line item there. You can pop in a question in that form on the webinar, and we'll address those at the end. All right. Okay, so let's get started. First off, a little bit about my background. I've been in continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma for almost 30 years. I think a little over 30 years at this point. But I started really with my career at Whirlpool Corporation. I led a Baldrige-based quality initiative. A 3-year Baldrige examiner, been pretty involved in that process and a big believer of that process. Moved to Pitney Bowes to start a Six Sigma initiatives at Pitney Bowes. So we had to figure out how to train, how to motivate or record the success of those projects and report on that at Pitney Bowes. And now I'm the VP of Sales here at KPI Fire. So that's my background. Now people ask me, well, that's not really very interesting. Tell me something interesting about yourself. So I don't know if you can see if I'm showing my camera or not. I guess I'm not, or am I? But in my background here, I've got all these posters and things from my dad's NFL career. So a little bit interesting about me. My dad was an NFL player and a coach in the NFL for his entire career, and I sort of grew up in that environment. That's me right there. My dad played for the Cleveland Browns, blocked for Jim Brown, was one of the greatest football players in history. He was a coach with the Dolphins, won a couple Super Bowls, etc. Okay, one more slide I'll share, and sort of an interesting one where this was during the perfect season that the Dolphins completed in '72, and my dad is there sort of keeping Shula from making a big mistake with the ref at that point. So a little bit about my personal background. All right, so let's get into talking about KPI Fire. Basically, the structure of KPI Fire looks like this. Right, we're talking about goals. What are we trying to accomplish? The metrics, the ideas and projects, and the reports and huddle boards sort of there in the middle that tie all this together. And really, this can be looked at in terms of a process like a PDCA or a Deming wheels, plan, do, check, act. We really start with those goals and planning. What are we trying to do? And where are we going? Right? And one of the key efforts here is that lots of times organizations do a great job in planning strategy, and nobody ever gets to see it, right? You put it in a book, it goes on the shelf, we never see it. We want to make that visible to everyone in the organization about where we are, what's our plan, where we going, what's important to us. Second are those metric areas, right? So we want to track and figure out, how do we measure that success of those goals? Is it getting better? If it's not getting better, what are we doing about it? Right? So we want to record and review performance. Right? One of the key ways we do that is with huddle boards and reports and systems of KPI Fire, which makes those visible to us. and so we can record that performance, right? And the next level is then to capture ideas. Well, how are we going to get better? What do we need to do? Prioritize those ideas and then execute those projects. So we'll look at that a little bit today, and then it moves around to the end, which is to track value versus the plan. Here's what we wanted to do. We got our goals set up, and we've recorded these projects, these metrics, and now we want to see how are we doing to that plan? Are we on track to meet it? Are we? What do we need to do to adjust? And we move this right back into a goal setting cycle. Right? So that's what KPI Fire is about, and how you can use it as this single source of truth around your continuous improvement efforts, right? And this is basically how the structure of this thing works, right? It starts off with the main goal in the organization. We set that goal, and then those goals have unique sub-goals that are linked to that main goal. And then sub-goal, I'm going to blow that one out because in order to achieve that, I've got some sub-goals to that. Now, on the same side of that is the metrics that are linked. Right? The sort of the beauty of KPI Fire is this linkage between goals, metrics, projects, and activities and reports. So those linkages we know, right? We can look at it by goal or by metric, etc. Right? So we've got our main metric. It can then be driven down even further and cascaded throughout the organization. And then finally, the projects again linked to those as well, so we know what projects we're doing and execute those. So again, here's a big picture view on what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to get in and look at the tool. And we're going to start out with this whole idea of communicating our strategic priorities. So I'm going to get into the tool itself. Okay. So this is a KPI Fire homepage. I've got my homepage set up too. This is Acme Corporation. We're going to start with that. The communication and design of our strategy. So I'm going to open that one up. Right? When I do that, it pops in here to my grid view of my goals. Now there's a lot going on here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to filter this down to the bare essence of where these top level goals are. Right? So it starts in KPI Fire with these 3 to 5 year long-term goals. And what we do here is we go up to the add button and we say, I've got this new goal I want to create here, and that's how we create these goals. Now this goal is, first off, we want to drive shareholder profitability and growth. We also want to drive customer loyalty, satisfaction with our customers, keep our customers coming back. And then we want to have employee satisfaction, learning and growth. We've got process capabilities, operational excellence. This is a typical balanced scorecard type approach that you can use as well. It's oftentimes focused around key, pillars of strategy, if you will. All right, so that's the first level. See that little plus sign right there? Right? And that plus sign, I say, well, what does it mean to me to achieve this goal? And how do I know this year, what do I have to do to get this long-term goal? So then a plus sign, I would hit that goal. And I'd add in a goal into this system, right? Well, we've done that. And so what does it mean to grow profitably? Well, it means the EBITDA this year's got to be $6 million. We know that organic revenue from organic sources has got to go 2 million, and growth from new products at 1.2 million. We're going to go reduce costs 10% year over year. This is a major cost reduction effort in terms of quality, lean events. So that's our how we define those strategies, and it doesn't matter what kind of strategies we're talking about. This can be looking at things like sustainability, right? With measures like water consumption or electricity or fuel or et cetera, right? So whatever those goals are for the organization, right? The next column here is this measure. How do we measure it? Let's look at those measures. Right? So EBITDA, right? The $6 million, how are we doing? Well, if we look at year to date, we should be at $1 million. We're in March, so 3 months in, and we're at 1.1. So hey, we're in the green. We're doing well. Right? Revenue, reducing costs year over year, not so good. We're behind in that target. And we can see that for all of our different metrics. And then finally, the projects that are associated with these, right? So I filter out and show my total view, right? So here we've got our metrics and goals around that organizational structure, okay? So going from here, we're going to look at cascading these goals throughout the organization, right? I'm going to go into a report here that we've got around cascading our cost reduction goals, and we'll take a look at that cost reduction goal. This is basically what we call a huddle board. It's a report. It's gathering key information about how we're performing to our targets. This is one of our key elements is to reduce costs year over year across Acme, right? And what we see here is our top level group, what they're doing in the industrial, the consumer group, in each plant and location. And we're cascading that goal throughout the organization. So everybody, every group, every level, has a clear understanding of what they're trying to achieve and how it affects that higher level goal. Now, we want to take and submit ideas around some of these ideas. So if I've got this, new idea, right? I want to open up my new idea form, right? And I want to submit this a new cost reduction program, right? And I'm in, Salt Lake City, or I'm in Detroit, wherever your location, you would submit that to that single location. And we also have phone apps, and it works on iPhone and also Android. It's a KPI Fire phone app where you can take a photo of the workplace and submit an idea right from your phone. Right? The idea here is, or we've made visible to the organization what's important to us, where we're going, what we're trying to do. Now we're trying to collect ideas and give people the opportunity to engage in ideas that we're going to pursue. So I've got this cost reduction idea. I'm just going to leave the effort and impact alone at this point, and I'm just going to submit that idea. So in it goes. I've got my idea format here, and I see all my submitted ideas. Now, a couple different ways of submitting ideas, right? We can do it like this, right? Where I'm using my idea, or from the phone, I'm just getting ideas from the organization. Right? If we go back to where we started, on these projects and ideas, I could be looking at this in a review and saying, hey, right, we're off track in this spills per fill metric. I want to take that and I want to add a project to make something and assign it to somebody. Or I could be looking at a goal and where, let's look at this goal that's net promoter score, which is in the red. We're not hitting our target, so on that goal target, I could select a project around that, assign it. Right? So we want somebody to do it. So there's a couple different ways of structuring those goals. One way is, as well as we can solicit those ideas. So if we're looking across these ideas, right? One, everybody knows we can put posters up. Hey, if you had an idea, submit to KPI Fire. We're trying to gather these and help us out, engage in this process. But I can also take this particular goal, and if I open this one up, this is all the details about what it means, this EBITDA goal. And I can go to the settings form and see this little link. What I've done here is I've enabled an external idea form, and it creates a link. And now that link can be emailed through your organization. Right? So if I open that link, so everybody gets an email and there's a link in it, and I open it up and it's like, hey, here's this major goal for this year that we're trying to get, or do we have any ideas around this? Here's my idea, here's what the result will be, what's the scope of the work, right? What department is it in? I can report on this. This is another way of not just waiting for ideas, but doing a solicitation, sending out emails, looking for ideas from particular groups or units to engage more fully in the tool. Okay. So, kind of different ways of submitting those ideas in the funnel, right? So now we get into the idea funnel. a couple of things that we look at here in the idea funnel, which is this impact versus effort variance, right? So each of these has a score around impact and effort. We also have a risk score as well, but the impact and effort, it gets modeled here in this heat map. So as we can see here, this project, if I click on that category right there, I'm going to see the project that's in that area. Okay. Oops, so sorry, my phone ringing. Turn that off. Okay. Also, up at the top here, what we can see here is that there are ways of filtering ideas by department, by the goals that they're linked in. If you wanted to see, hey, show me all the ideas that we have around customer satisfaction or driving on-time delivery. Right? And so if they're linked to those goals, we're going to be able to see what ideas do we have around those. We don't have any, maybe we need to get more. Maybe we must send out a solicitation around that goal, looking for more ideas. Right? As well, we can filter it for department, plant, group. Right, so I want to see, hey, just show me all the ones that are in Detroit. There's none in Detroit, wouldn't you know it? So let's go Dallas. Apply. Yep, and there's the only idea that, and it filters down. It also shows me the trend of the ideas that came in from it, or is it trending up or down? Are we getting more or less ideas? Right, so if I go to the top here again, I can hit clear filters, and this is one of the key elements as you're using KPI Fire, using the filter function. Very important, right? Clear the filters. Now I see, now these are all the projects, right? That should be in, let's just apply this. Yep, okay. So let's look at that that new cost reduction idea that we submitted, because we might want to go in and understand what the value of this project is, and then we're going to, you know, turn it into an actual project, right? So open up this new cost reduction project, and this is basically the project charter form for collecting ideas on this project. Hold on one second. Yep. Let's go back to that idea. Okay. So things like, what's the problem that we're trying to address? What's the scope? What's the result of this? Is it linked to any of our goals? Well, this is a cost reduction project. Yeah, let's link it. Let's make sure will probably help us grow EBITDA and also help us, you know, with this cost reduction goal. And okay. So now I've linked it to that goal, so I know it's driving or helping to us achieve those goals. Key to this and prioritizing here is once we've understand a little bit more about the project, we want to understand the benefits associated with this project. So let's get in and look at our linked project, right? Or I'm sorry, where is it? My project's benefits down here at the bottom. We'll open up this cost reduction project. So we want to be able to track what the value of this project is, and then be able to report it across my department, my division, and then in total across the group. So we can measure performance in terms of value of the projects that we're working on at any level. So first thing I want to do is just go in and say, well, what type of savings is this going to produce for me? Going to be hard savings, project soft savings, some costs. You might have an investment that you want to control how much you plan to spend 10,000, you only spent 8, or you know, you want to track that. Well, you can do that. This is configurable. You can, these line items you can create to reflect certain sort of buckets of savings. Like some people would say, well, we want to know more than hard savings. We want to know how much of that's labor and how much of it's materials, how much of it is inventory. So we can break it down, right? So we're just going to say right here at the hard savings at that level, I'm going to add that savings into my project. Okay. So now I can go into my project and say, what is my estimate for this project? Okay. And then any actuals, and we'll talk about actuals in a bit, but this is going to show me a little bit about my estimate. If it has recurring benefits, I can come in and say these benefits will recur to us, and we can see what that estimated benefit is versus the actual as I go forward. Now, this is one of those key places where we want to talk about, being aware and of what I call toxic numbers, right? As any project, as you start reporting about your savings on your effort and your lean continuous improvement effort, and you're saying, I got, we saved $12 million this year. Oh, that's impressive. One of your executives says, oh, pull up one of your projects. Let's look at that project. Let me just see where does that savings come from? Right? And they dig into it. You pull up a project just randomly, and you find out this one project, the estimates are way overzealous, exaggerated, not likely to occur savings. These are what we call PPDs, PowerPoint dollars, right? They look real good in the PowerPoint presentation, but they don't appear in reality. And so one of the things what KPI Fire can help you with is this whole idea of an approval process. So I would have an approver, right? And I'd say, well, I'm going to put my targets in, and I want to have it set to approved, to pending approval, right? It sends in an email, and we can have an approval process for the target, and then also, probably more importantly, the actual. When we look at the actual, there's a way of here where it says the attachments on this. I can attach my sort of like a spreadsheet or documents, because every project, right, there's a lot of variables that go into figuring out what's the value of this project. Okay? This project is gonna reduce the amount of screws that we need to build a machine. Well, okay, well, how much is a screw? How many do we use? What's the anticipated volume? There's all kinds of assumptions. I want to see a spreadsheet that tells me what that thing looks like and where my numbers come from. And I want to get it some kind of digital signature on that. It says, yeah, this is approved. We don't want that executive or anybody to come in and find one project that doesn't work, that doesn't make sense, or that is a PPD, right? PowerPoint dollars. Because that can be toxic to your whole environment. And nobody's going to trust anything you report. All the reports now from now, if you get caught with one project, right, you want to build confidence in your effort. Okay, so those are ways of looking at that. Now, key to this as well. Hey, we want to then roll up these projects. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a project report, and it's a report that I've saved here. It's my benefits versus plan. I want to see my project benefits versus plan. Okay. It's a relatively new report. You may not be familiar with this if you've been a customer of ours, but what this report does is roll up, and I'm looking at this on all the two business units and the plants that roll up to that level. And so here what I've got is that it's all level, that gray bar, that represents my budget for the year. This is our plan, if you will, our target, $1 million in savings. Well, that $1 million in savings is a roll up of these two business units, 750, 250. Okay, so we had 750 at the industrial unit, 250 in the consumer group. Well, this is telling us that the targeted amount that we've identified already, the target savings, is only at 390, and our actuals at this point are only 288. So we're way off hitting the target. The question is, why and where are we off target? And when we look at this, just immediately we can see that all of the negative variance is in one area. Why is the industrial group so far behind? If you look at the consumer group, they've actually identified more than the target for the year. Now, this might tell us something about the target. It might tell us a little bit more about the commitment to these people, their buy-in to the program, right? If I drill in more, I want to know more of the industrial group. Well, that's made up of those 2 plants. Ooh, we can really see, like in Salt Lake City, they're really just not, taking off with the effort. Where can I focus my effort, right? What can I do to help? Maybe we need to go into Salt Lake City, Detroit, send one of those emails looking for ideas to solicit ideas. As we can see, we don't have enough ideas. That light red is the proposed or the targeted versus the actual. So we need more ideas in the funnel. So let's do a campaign. Let's solicit some ideas there. Okay. So everything cool. We're looking at this. Let's go back to our idea funnel, right? With all our idea, there's the one that we had. Let's go ahead and we're gonna say that this is a high impact, low effort project, right? It just jumped into that green zone right there. So this is an idea we like. We're going to prioritize it, say high priority. This email here is going to go back to the person who submitted it, either by phone or wherever it came in from. This email goes back to that submitter. They get it stayed in the loop here about what's going on with their idea. So that idea, let's move into projects. We're going to manage these projects. We're going to create the project. Well, likewise, I can take this idea and I can move it into an active project status, or I can go to my add button. I can add a new project right off the bat. I can go to one of my goals, my metrics, and I can link a project and create it from there. Lots of different ways of sort of creating this project. I'm going to do it right here, where we're just going to turn this into an active project. When I do this, it's asking me here what the workflow is that I want to use. Is it Kaizen, DMAIC? And these workflows, again, are configurable. We have 26 or so out of the box that we can offer in KPI Fire, but you guys configure your own. It's step-by-step instruction on how to execute a project. Okay? Oftentimes you've got like a just do it. Hey, this is something, it's not really a problem-solving effort. We already know the solution, just go implement it. Where most projects like A3, DMAIC, et cetera, these are problem-solving tools. We've got to go in and figure out what the problem is first and then get a solution and then implement that solution. So I would pick a solution here, and we're going to go ahead and pick DMAIC Lite, right? And I'm just going to replace my workflow, and it goes. Looks good. Idea is now activated. It's a current project. Right? So here's my project plan, right? In the define phase, what are the steps I need to do, etc. Now I'm going to go too deep into the project workspace on this. We had a other webinar last month, all focused on managing projects, etc. We're not going to spend a lot of that time here. Okay. So let's come back now and talk about our basic huddle boards and reports. Right? We talked earlier, right, how sort of the huddle boards and the reporting mechanism sort of sits at the center of all of KPI Fire, from our projects, our metrics, and it's really an aggregate place to view and to take action, right? Huddle boards may get that name because it's basically a huddle around and figure out how are we doing, how do we need to change. It's like calling the next play in the huddle. Right? So if I go into our huddle reports, I've got all of my saved huddle reports up here in my saved view. And so I hover over that saved view, and this is where I can go into my huddle boards. Right here, we're going to come into what's called our board review huddle board. Okay. So this level report, right? This is making visible on one page, hey, here are these annual goals. These are these important goals that we're trying to track. EBITDA, how are we doing? We're at 110% so far. That's good. Why? Because we had a great 1st January. You can see that performance for the year. If we wanted to look at the date up here at the top, I can go back to what was it last year? Right, so let's go back to last year. Here's how we ended up last year. We sort of came up on a higher level from where we are now in March. Okay, and our March numbers aren't in yet, right? On-time delivery, right? Organic growth, right? Over trend, over time, et cetera. And you can see each of these charts represents what would represent a green performance, what represents a yellow, and what represents a red performance. And that's where the indicators happen here, why they turn color, if the current or the total performance is in one of those zones. Okay. Now, key element here is this whole idea of cascading goals. Right? In this case here, we're looking at average net promoter score. This net promoter score at the Acme level, the net promoter score is a measure of customer satisfaction and loyalty, right? You ask your customers, they give you a score, when they stay with you, when they recommend you to others, et cetera. This is a key driver of their satisfaction score here. Well, we're in the yellow at the Acme level, but this is made up of averaging the score from our survey from each of these individual units. In fact, I want to go in deeper and look at this, right? So I'm going to click on that huddle board. And when I click on the huddle board, it just opens up a second window so I can drill into this one. So this one's focusing on just the performance of that metric. Why is this yellow? Well, it's not because of the industrial group. They're 101% of their target. We can localize the problem to the consumer group. What's going on? We can also track, when we're tracking those things, that customers are telling us what the problem is. And in the consumer group, our #1 problem is product training, but in the, in the consumer group, it's the responsiveness, right? We need a better, they're telling us we don't answer the phone, we don't get back to them, whatever, but let's focus on that. Let's get a project on it. So we can Pareto out the reasons that we're not hitting our target, so we can drive that success. This image as well has something like a benchmark, right? This is a posted image I put in here. Just compare our performance to some other industry benchmarks. If you ever look around, in the Baldrige process, and anything you're measuring in you need to compare it to world class. Right? So if you're measuring satisfaction and net promoter score, how does that compare to your industry and to world-class organizations? Right? So drive those down, right, and able to cascade those goals. But here's one of the things that's interesting. We'd spend a little time here on this. This is what called the 5 most wanted list. Our 5 most wanted list. In this, I'll relay a little, story at Whirlpool way back in the day when we led a transformation there. So we had projects going on all over the place. Everybody's doing everything, and we found that we're lacking a focus on what was the most important things that we needed to do. So we came up with the 10 most wanted list effort. Here I've narrowed it down to the 5 most wanted list. Let me spend a moment and talk to you a little bit about this effort. Right, so Whirlpool, when we came up with this idea, this 10 most wanted list, and what it was basically this, it's about 3 feet by 4 feet, 2 feet by 4 foot, whatever, big poster that had the ability to put little project listings on here, and this was our 10 most wanted list. We put this in every one of our locations in a prominent spot where people came in and out, their lobbies, etc. And here's how it worked, right? So first off, in the selection of the projects, right, we would look at the executive team. This is the senior leadership group, and we would look at our list of projects and say, okay, what are the hundreds of things we're working on right now? what's most important to us to getting us where we want to go. Right? And they helped score that stuff, and we create this little project plaque, and we put it up on the plaque on the board. Right? Second piece, execution of those projects. Right? We put a team together. They were already working on the projects to get in order to get on the 10 most wanted. But then we would put one of the executive sponsors as sort of a secondary sponsor on the project. So not only was it, had its own sponsor on the project, now all of a sudden it's got an executive sponsor level who's checking in on it as well. Celebrate as a team, right? So celebrate when we would successfully have a project that was completed. We had this big meeting, all hands meeting, and the chairman of the board would get up and he'd talk about, hey, this is, here's what we did, why this project was important. The project leader would come up and share with us what happened, and they pull it off the board. Right? It was considered a captured 10 most wanted. Right? Then we memorialize it. From there, I take that board, that thing that he just ripped off there, and we'd put it in a frame, send it to the team. The entire team would sign it, frame it, and we put it in our corporate headquarters. As we grew in time, anyway, the whole front lobby, right, had a 10 most wanted, had all these projects all signed around that, providing recognition and memorialization of these great projects, the most important projects that we had executed. My point in speaking to this, right, is that in building the culture, it's more than running projects. We run projects. We run a lot of project train people. We run projects. We report it, and we say, yeah, there we go. Right? But this type of effort is meant to drive a cultural shift and organizational culture. That this is important. This is the way we do things around here, right? This is an important part of our success, and it really got people motivated. This is why Whirlpool won the Michigan Quality Award, runner-up award in terms of Baldrige in creating this type of quality initiative. But that was one of the things I wanted to share with you, because that is exactly what we're doing here. This is our 10 most wanted list, right? Or my 5 most wanted. So this has been voted on. Hey, they go on the board. We keep visible. We see how we're performing to this. So I think we've got a little bit of time left, and I want to open this up for questions. See if there's any questions out here. There's a question box. You can open that up and submit a question you'd like. Okay, so question came in, how do multiple sites work? So perfect, good question, right? So when we look at something like this, KPI Fire is built structurally to understand what your organization looks like, the different sites, the different businesses, the different plants, the different locations and departments. We call these things departments. That's terminology for KPI Fire. It's basically you're looking and thinking about where is the work done, who am I holding responsible for metrics and goals and achievement of certain effort, right? And so that whole idea of accountability is a key factor. Right? And so in this case, when we look at something like this, right, Acme Corporation is made up of 2 business units, and they have different plants. Underneath that plant, you might have production, logistics, operations, HR, finance, whatever, right, departments as well. So it can go as deep as you'd like. and we have multiple organizations that are large scale organizations that are structured that way, right? And so when you create those goals and structure, right? For instance, let's go to our cost reduction goal here. So I'm going to open this goal up, and so we're going to cascade this cost reduction. So we know at the Acme level that this is our target, right? So here's our metric for that. If I open up that, it shows me how we are tracking this metric. Here's the performance of this metric this year. Here's how we did last year, etc. But this isn't the end of it. This metric is made up, see down here below, of these two units, the consumer and the industrial group. So if I open up the industrial group, there's my industrial group, that's made up of those two different departments. So the metrics are then cascaded to a point where it's the accountability lies, and where the data is actually performed. Right? So it doesn't matter what that line is, but I think a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with holding people accountable to targets. We looked at that report earlier, right? My benefits to plan. We pull that up, right? I want to be able to see how each of these groups, right? Each of these subgroups is doing to that target. So we're going to deploy it down to each of those groups and be able to report on the output. Okay. Okay, let's see. I'm going to make sure. I think we got other questions here. Yeah, Terrence wants to know a little bit more about these goals, right? So if I have these long-term goals here, how else might we be able to view this? Well, I hover over goals here. I also have X matrix capability. So I can look at this at the high level. This is exactly the same data you saw earlier on the grid that we were just looking at. But as I hover over each of these, so I hover over shareholder satisfaction, you can see my annual objectives light up. Over on the west, over in the north, we got the projects that we're working on, and in the metrics, right, and the east, right, to show us where the metrics are. Are they green, red, yellow, etc. Now with this, hey, show me only the goals that had to do with our employees and filter it down. So here's our employee satisfaction goals and annual goals and the projects that are associated with it that we're working on, right? Or show me only the ones in a certain department or area, etc. So secondary way of creating those sort of X matrix view and give you a little bit different view of the connection between all of these elements. Right? And then the final view would be something like what we call a bowling view. And here, I'm still filtered here for employees. So I want to look at my employee satisfaction goals. You click on and seeing up. So hey, here are these goals. We want to establish safety. We want to reduce falls by 90%. And then we've got two goals, and there's two different plans. And I can also drive in and see the metrics associated with those. Okay. So a couple different ways of doing that. And I think that's okay. How do I get the goals and metrics tab on my platform? Okay, I think if you don't have the goals and metrics tab, it means that your permission setting is, or your user type is such that it's not allowing you to see it. And so this is an administrative function. You might want to talk to your admin. I think it's Tammy. That you've got maybe you would like to see, the either the goals and the metrics, because there are different user types in order to control access and visibility, right? We want to ensure only the people that need this, should see it, that type of thing. So, so I would check there. We're using a huddle board as a group. Some team members we would like to have view only for their sign-on. We would like to have view only for their sign-on. Jason, I think you're talking about sort of filtering down and visibility for just a certain group or area. And yes, so every single one of these types of reports. So let's say, I'm looking at this list of reports, and hey, you're in Detroit, so you should only see these. Right now, I can take that and I can save that, give it a name as the Detroit list of active projects, and then make it visible only to those people in that area. So I think it was Jason. Yeah, I think some of this with this visibility rule and creating your own views on a huddle board might answer that question. So using the filters and also that visibility rule, so that it only is possible to see certain groups by certain groups. How can you track soft savings efficiently, Vecna, this customer? Yes. So, so soft savings, right? Let's go into this project. Again, let's add one of those, that soft saving benefit. And let's just put this, that we've got soft savings as well. Now, there's a couple decisions that you need to make when you're doing soft savings versus hard savings. Is soft savings something like cost avoidance? Is it something like, hey, if we, invest in maintenance, then, we won't have to buy another one of these for 2 years, and that's an avoidance of cost. You might say, well, hey, we're putting off the benefit for 2 years, so there's some type of benefit there that I can track for this year. Now, some people say soft savings and hard savings equals your total benefit. Some others say, no, soft savings doesn't roll into your hard savings. It's a separate category. And this is more an internal discussion and decision, but you can track soft savings. So this soft savings might be things like cost avoidance or freeing up time. We're freeing up 10% of somebody's time, but we're not eliminating that person. You're not going to headcount reduction, but you're freeing up some of their time. Again, that could be a line item underneath this soft saving. So what we do is we configure this and add new line items to track what type of soft savings you want, and then you have to decide whether or not it counts to the total benefit. Yes, yeah, right. You're right. You want to definitely. So Jason, yeah, definitely. You're concerned that when we're showing team members things, so team members, if you have a team member designation on a user, that person is a team member. They shouldn't be able to delete anything. Now, if you have people listed as, other, like a project manager license or a strategy or an admin license or something like that, and they're in there as a team member, then they would have access to be able to do those things. So I think what we need to do with that, Jason, is check on, what their license types are and whether they're appropriate and what those license types do, right? So if I go, this is an admin panel here, and I can go in and look at sort of the help function around all these different license types. And these are the license types that are in KPI Fire, and this will tell you, right? And the way to get here is right here. Oh, if you're not an admin, you'd have to go to the blog, go to our user blog and type in license types, and this will show you the types and what they can and can't do. And as a team member, they won't be able to change or delete or edit projects. So. Okay, I think that covers a lot of those questions. Is there any other? All right, I think that's great. Right, I'll give you 10 minutes back of your day. Appreciate everybody coming, and please reach out with more if you've got any more details and questions with for me. I think my contact information here, right, is here, or we can reach out to Keith or anyone here at KPI Fire would like to help. So everybody, guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy. See you all later.